Hey, welcome! Today we're going to talk about something that's a total game changer for anyone who's ever tried to learn anything. We're diving into the science of learning smarter, not just harder, and a technique that can turn frustrating practice into real, lasting knowledge.
All right, let me ask you something, and be honest. Have you ever spent hours, hours, studying for a test, feeling like you've completely got it down, you're crushing every single practice problem, and then you get to the test and your mind just goes blank? It's just the worst feeling, right? Well, guess what? There's a totally logical reason for that, and the culprit has a name. It's a study habit pretty much all of us were taught to do. It's called blocked practice. And the tricky thing is, it feels like it's working, but it's actually setting you up to fail when it counts.
So let's get into it. We're going to pull back the curtain on this illusion of mastery and figure out why a study method that feels so right can be so wrong.
So what is this blocked practice thing? Well, it's actually super simple. It's when you practice one single skill over and over and over again before you move on to the next one. You know, like doing 20 math problems all about circles, then 20 problems all about triangles, then 20 problems all about squares. You just drill one thing until you feel like you've got it down cold.
And here's the trap. It feels so good while you're doing it. You get into a rhythm, the answers start flying, and you build up all this confidence. But that feeling, well, it's mostly an illusion. You see, you're not actually getting better at solving the problem. You're just getting good at repeating the exact same steps you took a minute ago. The context is doing all the heavy lifting for your brain.
But don't worry, because there is a hero in this story. Let's talk about the solution, a strategy that builds real, flexible knowledge that you can actually use. It's time to talk about the interleaving advantage.
Okay, this slide right here, it makes it so clear. Just look at the difference. On the left, you've got blocked practice. It's neat, it's tidy, A, then B, B, B. But on the right, you've got interleaving, and it looks kind of messy, right? It's all mixed up. A, B, C, A. That beautiful mess, that's the secret. So to put it formally, interleaving is just mixing up or shuffling different but related topics all within the same study session. The whole secret sauce is just that you're constantly switching gears instead of drilling one thing into the ground.
Oh, this is such a great way to think about it. Blocked practice is like going to the gym and only doing 50 bicep curls. Yeah, your bicep will be on fire, but did you get a good workout? Not really. Interleaving? Now that's a full body circuit workout. You're doing squats, then push-ups, then planks. It feels harder, you get tired faster, but that's because you're building real, flexible, total body mental strength.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. Wait a minute, why would I want to make practice harder? That sounds awful. But there's some incredible science behind why this struggle is actually a good thing.
You know, cognitive scientists have this awesome term for it, desirable difficulty. And it means exactly what it sounds like. That feeling of struggle you get when you interleave, that's not a sign you're failing. It's actually the feeling of your brain forging stronger, deeper connections. The effort is the entire point.
And wow, does it pay off. I mean, look at this. This chart shows data from a real study on learning math. The group that did blocked practice felt great while they were studying, but on the test the next day, they only scored 40%. The group that interleaved, they struggled more, but on the test, they got an 80%. They doubled their scores. That is absolutely incredible.
Okay, so what is happening in the brain here? How does this magic work? Well, a big part of it is something called discrimination learning. When you mix up problems, you force your brain to constantly compare and contrast them. It has to learn to spot the little differences that tell it, oh, for this problem, I need to use that strategy.
So here's what it boils down to. Interleaving trains your brain to do two things that are just critical for solving problems in the real world. First, you have to look at a problem and figure out what kind of problem it is. And second, you have to dig into your mental toolbox and pull out the right tool for the job. Block practice lets you skip both of those steps.
Okay, so the science is solid, right? This stuff works. But the big question is, how do you actually use this? Let's get into a real practical guide.
Okay, stop. Before we go any further, there is one super important rule here. Do not try to interleave topics you're seeing for the very first time. That's a recipe for disaster. You need to use a little blocked practice first to get the basic idea down. Once you've got a handle on concept A, concept B, and concept C on their own, then you can start mixing them up.
All right, so what should you be doing? Let's break it down. First, and this is key, Mix related topics. Think different kinds of geometry problems, or different types of chemical equations, or different painting styles from the same art period. They need to be related so your brain is forced to see the differences. And hey, start easy, maybe with some quizzes where the answers are right there.
Now, just as important is what not to do. Do not try to mix completely different subjects. Bouncing between your math homework and your history reading isn't interleaving, it's just switching tasks, which is actually inefficient. You're looking for that sweet spot, where the topics aren't too similar, but they aren't too different either. That's where the learning happens.
Now hold on. This doesn't mean we should just throw blocked practice out the window completely. It's not the bad guy in every situation. There are definitely specific times when blocking is not only a good idea, but it's actually the better strategy.
So when is it the right tool for the job? Well, definitely use it when you're seeing a brand new, tough concept for the first time. You got to build that initial foundation. It's also really good when you're trying to find a clear pattern or learn a specific formula. Think of it this way. Blocking helps you lay the bricks, but interleaving is what cements them all together into a strong wall.
And that brings us right back to where we started, with a question I want you to ask yourself. The next time you sit down to study, just ask, is what I'm doing right now building real, flexible knowledge that I can use later? Or am I just creating a temporary illusion of confidence? Because it turns out how you practice might be way more important than how much you practice.